Webinar Wednesday, which will begin in just a few moments. But before we begin, let me get a few administrative details out of the way so we don't have to clutter up the time during the actual webinar. First, this webinar is being recorded and it will be available in replay on both Facebook and on YouTube. We leave the replays available to you for 1 week after the webinar is broadcast, and then after that we take the webinars and we archive them for the purpose of our patrons. More on that in a few moments. Every week we host these free webinars. They are on topics around productivity, content creation, and a little bit in online marketing. They're available to you free of charge. However, we are a community-funded channel and we appreciate your support. And you can show your support in 3 ways. The first way is what you're doing right now, just being here, commenting, sharing it with others, being a part of our community. We appreciate that. But in a more practical sense, you can also support us through the Super Chat, which is available to those of you viewing on YouTube. You can always give us a tip if you find something incredibly valuable in what we share. But our main way that we support the Dottotech channel and Webinar Wednesday in particular is through the generosity of our Patreon community. If you drop by patreon.com/Dottotech, you can support us financially on a monthly basis here, keeping Webinar Wednesday on the air. But there are perks. Oh, indeed, there are some fantastic perks. The most important of which is we archive each and every one of these tutorial webinars, and the entire catalog is available to our patrons. Now, sit back and relax. We appreciate you being here, one and all, and today's webinar is going to be something special starting in just a few moments. Steve Dotto here. How the heck y'all doing this fine day? And welcome to Webinar Wednesday. We are some kind of happy that you are joining us all here today. For some reason, it's not streaming live yet on my channel here, but looks like we're going live to a lot of places. So how are you doing? April, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, friends.
Happy
How is everybody
Wednesday
today?
to you as well. Now, did you do the Valentine's Day thing? Did you have a big Valentine's thing happening?
So we do Valentine's Day, not like crazy, just fun. I always get gifts for everybody, and we do heart-shaped pizzas. That's kind of like our tradition. So, yeah, it was a nice day. And so how about you? What do you do for Valentine's
Absolutely
Day?
Nothing.
It's the Hallmark holiday, Steve.
It is.
What's up?
That's what Shannon said. So it's like my get out of jail free card. So I completely got out of jail for free.
Nice.
But I think it's also pandemic related. I just didn't really feel like it. Didn't feel like doing something too special. So
hey, are you guys having snow? We have some friends in Texas that are getting hammered with like crazy snow. My thoughts go out to all of you.
I was going through the comments before, and people are just like all over the states. What do they call it? The polar vortex. There's just been some really serious issues going on. Now, I'm not either, actually. I'm getting it live on Facebook, but I'm not getting it live on YouTube. Facebook, but you're not getting it here. Let's take a look.
Let me see. I'm going to refresh one more time.
It looks like we're streaming fine.
No, it's saying waiting to start still.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I don't quite know what we should do about that, because we want to make sure. So let me know here in the comments if you are getting the feed, if you are getting the stream, and let's make sure that we are live. Because
strange, because I do see it on Facebook, no problem.
You see it on Facebook, but it's YouTube that seems to be the issue right now.
Hey guys.
So no video on YouTube. Yeah, few videos on YouTube right now. Yeah. So maybe you can post a comment that we're trying to solve that issue.
Yeah.
And
strange.
First time we've had an issue like this. I'm going to refresh here, see if that helps. Sorry. I see.
Nope.
Oh, they're getting us on YouTube in some places. Yep, some people are getting it.
Okay.
Some people
So,
are getting it.
yep,
Oh,
I
there's a
see the stream.
whole whack of.
Weird. Very weird. YouTube shows waiting for Dottotech. Yep, checking in on no worries.
Some are getting it right now.
Well, I mean, I can send people to, I can drop the Facebook link in. Let's see. Yeah, I'm still not getting it.
Yep. Okay. So I just refreshed my feed here. Faith is getting us. Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys. I see a lot of you are getting it. They're seeing us in Texas. They got no power in Texas, but they're seeing us in Texas. So that is a good thing. Set this up here.
Interesting. So.
Okay. I'm going to refresh one more time on mine.
I dropped the Facebook link in, so. And then we're sending people to their least favorite place, right? YouTubers going to. Strange.
So that is, let me just check. They've got a tool here. So just stay with us here for a second, folks.
Strange. I just got a message that Dottotech's video will time out in 6 minutes. Reschedule or cancel this stream on Facebook from Facebook. So I don't know. It is live here and people are coming over. The number's going up. I don't know if it's a app issue.
I've got 154 people. It's telling me 154 is on that. Oh, you know what's happened?
What?
For some reason, it's maybe I didn't turn off the correct. We're feeding into multiple streams. When I set it up, I think I might have made a little bit of a user error in setting it up, in the fact that I might have set it up and it's streaming not just on our standard YouTube channel, but it's also streaming into all of our other groups that we've set up for.
Okay, so I did stream it. I actually shared it in Gray Zone, so that's not a restream.
So it's in the Gray Zone. It's in Gray Wave. It's in my personal profile, Steve Dotto.
And it's also on Dottotech. It's on. This isn't, but it's not. We're on Dottotech right now, right? And I'm not getting it. So sorry, guys. Thanks so much for your patience. We do have a lot of people. Like the numbers going up, just so you know, on the Facebook Live.
Yeah, and we're getting people, and it shows 200 and some odd people in the room right now, mainly. Yeah. So okay. So what we'll do is we'll just kind of plunge ahead, and we'll figure out. We'll send out an email afterwards, and we will send out a. We will figure if we have to redo this, if we have to put it on as a special tomorrow. As a replay, because you guys are going to want to take in this content. It is. There's no doubt about it. It is,
and it will definitely be out in the replay later too. So sorry about that. We're up to about 150 on live on Facebook, just so you know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good.
We are talking over on Facebook. We're talking about how it's not live on YouTube. Yes, we are pretty funny, actually. So sorry, guys.
Okay, well, this is a good thing that we're in multiple platforms. So you just keep sending people over to the Facebook, and we will get going. So here's the topic today. The main content is we're talking about time blocking, time and calendar blocking. What better use of your time than watching Steve and April putzing around trying to figure out why we're not feeding through properly. So I suppose now wouldn't be the best time for me to do my restream pitch, because I suspect it's user error. I suspect it's something that I did wrong. But we are sponsored by Restream, which is why we're all on Facebook now as well as on YouTube. But they are our streaming partner that allows us to deliver our content each and every week here at Dottotech. And this is the first time actually we've run into any issues, but we will kind of struggle our way through it. And I also need to do a big shout out and big thank you to all of our patrons. We are supported here at Dottotech through Patreon, We're a community-funded channel, and if you value all of the free content that we produce each week, well, we are supported by you. It's we take each one of these weekly Webinar Wednesdays. We deliver them for free. They're available for you to view for about a week afterwards, but then after that, we archive each of them for our patrons. So this is number 160. Are we up to number 160, I think? I didn't change the number on the graphic. I think this is our 160.
It is 160. Yeah.
So there's 160 of these in the Webinar Wednesday archives. So just to let you know, in case so that we want to thank all of our patrons for the support. So this replay will be there as well once we can capture it, once we can figure it all out. At any rate, let's get into today's topic, which I really enjoyed doing the prep for this week. This week is the second of 4 webinars which we've planned for the first part of this year, which are all focused on making us far more productive than we ever have been before. And 2 weeks ago, we did doing a time audit, which allows us to use technology to kind of measure exactly where we're spending our time and to try and figure out how we can maximize our time, what tasks we probably shouldn't be doing, where we're losing time, where we're wasting time. So hopefully you've participated and done a time audit, and now you have a better understanding of where you spend your time each and every day. So today we're going to be taking a look at calendar and time blocking, which is taking those tasks that we did, that we've identified, especially the ones that are important to us to continue, that we want to maximize to help kind of move the ball downfield for our own purposes. And we want to figure out how to structure our time to make more efficient use of the time. And I learned some really important lessons as I went through the whole process of planning out this module, which I will share with you. I think some of them are pretty profound, and they could make a significant difference. The cool thing about calendar blocking, and I'll mention it towards the end, is it's not a difficult productivity habit to get into. It's actually pretty easy to do. You can fall into it and you can rely on it if you start to do it, if you use a few simple techniques. So we're going to be sharing that with you. So hopefully now we will be able to share the video, and we don't have any issues there. As usual, April and I will be in chat. Once we're through the chat, once we're on the other side, we will return for the Q&A. You can help us out by identifying the questions, any questions you have as you go through, by just putting a question mark in front of the question that you're asking. It makes it far easier for us to identify them. We'll answer as many as we can in chat as we go along, and then we'll come back at the end today, and we will answer more of your questions live. So let's dive in and let's run the video, and Steve can take a deep breath and calm down, and April can calm down, and we can. One of the big benefits of calendar blocking is reducing stress. One of the unintended consequences of live streaming is dramatically increasing stress.
Hey, but you know what? But they're making fun of me over on Facebook. I said, hey, while you're here, be sure to stop by and like the Dotto Tech page. They're like, it's a Facebook ploy strategy.
Yeah, that was it. We totally busted.
Yes. Because Steve's favorite platform.
Well, absolutely. That's what I want to do, is migrate everybody onto Facebook. My master plan. You've caught me. All right, let's get going. We will see you guys on the other side of the video. Blocking. I really enjoyed prepping this, and it made me think. I think I learned a lot as I went through the preparation for this week's Webinar Wednesday. So today, as you know, we're going to be taking on time blocking, talking about the concept of using time or calendar blocking to improve our productivity. This is part of a 4-part series. The second part, first part was doing a time audit, so you should know where you're spending your time. Now we're going to start to craft that time so that we can be more productive, get more done, reduce our stress, all good stuff. So our agenda for today, we're first of all going to talk about the problem, briefly, of why we need to use a tool like calendar blocking. Then we're going to go through calendar blocking basics. We're going to talk about the systems, because there are multiple different ways that you can set it up. And it's not just one fixed way. It's not a rigid process. So making sure you understand some of the different kind of philosophical ways of approaching it. The ultimate goals that we have. As I went through it, I realized there's just 2 or 3 real significant goals that we can attribute to calendar blocking, which are worth exploring. The results, if you attain those goals, a little bit about the tools and technology, and my key takeaways. So let's start with this. Let's start with the problem. And does your day look like this? This is actually not a terribly unproductive day. This is very typical of a day in, for example, my life. The day starts out fairly early in the morning with a cup of coffee in hand as I sit and stare at the computer and kind of decide exactly what it is that I want to get done during the day. Don't judge me. It happens to all of us. Then once I've kind of got an idea of what's going on, I open up my email, spend time in the email. Once I've been through email for a little bit and I'm feeling a little bit frustrated, I'm already starting to feel the anxiety rise, I do a little bit of research. Now you can add whatever you want to the research category. That it could be looking and seeing what's happening on Facebook or doing a little bit of research on upcoming things that you're going to be having to do in the day, checking out some tools, just basically putzing around the internet. And then once I feel a little bit guilty having spent some time doing that, it's back to email, checking out my email before I finally put it aside, usually when I hit an email that I don't want to deal with, that I want to put off. And then I go into actually getting some work done, writing, working on an outline for a feature like this, doing some productive work, and I get some done. And then I check my email again. Then it's time for a team meeting, and then it's back to email. After each event, it seems that we go back to email. Do we not? I don't know if you do, but I certainly do. Then spending some time doing administrative stuff, cleaning out different things, going through the upcoming schedule, checking our project management tool, seeing what's coming up, organizing. I spend some time in administration, and then I'll usually do a good chunk of email again. Sound familiar? Then lunch, followed by, for us, it would be a live stream of some sort, or taking in a webinar, delivering some content, or consuming some content. And then I've got something that I call systems, where it's going through and, cleaning up your software, organizing your files, just different kind of administrative details that you might have to do around the computer, around your office, around your systems, followed by a little bit of email. And then finally, at that point, at the late point in the day, I get to what I really should be working on, which is creating a video like this, which is creating some content. That is a typical day. And when you look at it, does the level of stress that you experience start to rise looking at what might be a regular day for me? It does. It does for me. Looking at it right now, I'm feeling anxious. The problem that we have here is our time management typically creates a chaotic environment because we're reacting to things that are going on, and it creates stress. And the other thing is, all of these stops and starts. Exactly how many times in this can I really get into the zone? Can I really get into getting some work done, some really good productive work done? There's just a couple of times, maybe a little bit in the writing side, maybe a little bit in the admin side. Certainly when I'm delivering a live webinar or something like that, I would say I'm in that zone. And perhaps in the content creation side, if I'm doing something like right now, where I'm actually recording some content and I'm actually meeting the goals that I've set out. But we can see that there is one problem in here, and I don't want to make this time and calendar blocking all about email, but email is the root of all evil. Email really does cause a lot of headaches because of this. I did 2 quick Google searches. How many times a day do people check their email? The answer, according to UBC, 15 times a day. I only put 8 times in that little example that I prepared for you. But the average person checks their email 15 times a day. 15 times a day. They stop what they're doing. They check their email. They add stress. They kill their productivity for email. And we didn't even include in that calendar the 14 times a day the average person checks social. It says here Facebook, but we know that they're checking Instagram or some other social platform 14 times a day. That's 30 times a day that the average person is interrupting their workflow in order to check and audit and automate a system, either email or their social platforms. Even if it's just 2 minutes a time, that's an hour a day spent doing that. We know it's not 2 minutes each. So recognizing that this is one of the hugest time sucks that there are, yes, email is the root of all evil and followed closely by social media. So if we're going to look at calendar blocking, we'll get into the techniques and how you do it in a moment, but let's just look at what getting the same amount of work done in a day might look like in a more structured environment. And that is, instead of sitting and starting the day by just kind of thinking about what I'm going to do. I know what I'm going to do at the start of the day, and I sit down when I have the most energy and the most focus, and I work on the important tasks that I know are really important because I've done a time audit. If you were with us a couple of weeks ago, you know the importance of auditing your time, figuring out exactly where you spend your time, knowing what's important for you to be doing. For me, spending time, project management and content creation are two of the highest priorities. So if I spend time writing right at the beginning of the day, it's a hard task for me to do just because of my personal makeup, but early in the day is the best time for me to do it. Then I get into doing a little bit of admin, which is, again, is something that I find difficult to put my mind to, but if I do it when I'm fresh early in the day, I'm better at it. Then I take on my email. I don't open the email until that point there. And we limit the amount of time that we're going to spend in the email because we recognize what a time vampire it is. Then we get into the locked things, the things that have to be there. You see there are a couple of different appointments or events that are fixed in time. We can't move them around. Team meetings with your team, later on in the day doing a live stream or a webinar, those things are locked. So those are kind of set as cornerstones within your day. So they're in. Then going into content creation. Again, because I've done a time audit, I know what the most important things that I want to do in a day are, and content creation is right up there. So get that done while I still have energy early in the day, while it's basically in the sweet spot of productivity. And the same amount of time applied, but now I've gone through all of the things that I consider to be most important before lunch. And then we have a little break to be able to do different system stuff, upgrading software, looking for a new version, researching a new piece of software, doing something in the systems because I'm always constantly working on our overall admin and systems, maybe spending some time in our CRM, cleaning something up. But it's basically, at this point here, I've spent most of my kind of high volume energy, and now we're starting to wind things down a little bit. Then a break for lunch, then whatever the live stream we do is, whatever our content is, followed by spending some time in research. But now my energy barometer is dropping, but I've gotten everything done in the day. Do you see how that works? And I've got all of this now kind of open time, which would be really healthy to have. Then we return to our email towards the end of the day, making sure that there's nothing that we're slipping. And then it comes the most important kind of additional thing that I haven't been doing in my day, at least in this model here. And that is reviewing your day, reviewing what you accomplished in the day, looking back over it, honestly, and planning tomorrow. Going in and dynamically planning and making sure that you know what you're going to do in the day, so that when you come into the office in the morning, you aren't doing what old Steve was doing here, sit at my computer and stare, trying to figure out what I'm going to do all day with a cup of coffee. But instead, you're diving right in. And as you enter the office, as you sit down, you're raring to go, and you're going to be working on productive things right away, and you feel in control. This model here, this second model here, gives you a sense of accomplishment, it gives you a sense of control, and it overcomes so many of the issues that we face. So getting to this point, now it doesn't have to look exactly like this, but getting to this point is, I think, one of the overarching goals of calendar blocking. So the benefits, you get more done in the day because you're focused, you're in the zone more, which we'll be talking about more momentarily. When you're focused, when you're concentrating on the task at hand, you do better work. And that should be a goal. It's something that we don't often pay attention to. We often pay attention to getting more done, but we don't necessarily always pay attention to doing better work, creating better content. That is, I think, an ultimate benefit of proper use of calendar blocking and time blocking, because you're in the zone, you're capable of better work, and we're far less stressed. Wouldn't it be great to feel good about the day every day because you know you're on task? You know how you feel when you have a really good and a really fruitful day. That is what the goal is, and I believe calendar blocking will get that to us. So let's now visit the basics of calendar blocking. And here's a philosophical thing that we need to understand. See, historically, we've used our calendar for meetings and appointments. It's had our obligations on the calendar, but with calendar blocking, it's not just meetings and appointments, but it's everything that we're planning on doing for the day. We use it for everything. So we block out times for all activities, not just appointments. And once they're on the calendar, they should be invalid. We should make sure that we do them regardless of anything else. They are obligations. And here's the thing. When your calendar's full of appointments, you're being reactive. If it's just people's meetings and people's expectations of you, you're being reactive. When you control the shape of what your day looks like, when you put in your priorities and you decide what you're going to do at different times in the day, you are being proactive. And I think we all recognize the value of that. So how do you get started? How do you get started in calendar blocking? And we're going to talk about the types of calendar blocking here in just a few moments, but there are some great tutorials to get you started. We don't have time here in the kind of 25-minute time frame that we have for this video to take you on a detailed tour of the tutorial, but for our patrons, a year ago, we had Phyllis Kerr on, and she did a tutorial with us. She did a webinar Wednesday called Living a Calendar-Based Life, which is a great tutorial on time blocking and using your calendar for that. So check it out. There'll be a link that you can get to it in the Webinar Wednesday archives. For everybody else, there are some great tutorials that I found online. Todoist has done one, Motley Flu, and our good friend Francesco D'Alessio. They've all got really great tutorials that'll walk you through their perspective on how to set up calendar blocking. And just have a look through them, find one that you like to help you with the tutorial side of this, because there are different types of systems, depending on your own personality and your own work type, that you can consider for calendar blocking. They're not all the same. So I break them down. I think there are three kind of super overarching types of calendar blocking systems that you can do. There's one that I call the OCD. And this is a place that a lot of people I think might stop the process because they're concerned this is the way to do calendar blocking. The OCD is the person that lays out their day color-coded with these blocks of time, and every day has to look the exact same, and they want to see the whole calendar filled up, and they don't want anything to move because they're kind of being OCD about it. And so they get very rigid about their rules and about their time. Now, that might work for you. And some aspects of the OCD could work for all of us. For example, making sure that you have your exercise or your time for reading or personal development, that you lock that off. That can be really healthy to have those as unmovable blocks that are color-coded and cross across the entire week of your business week. But for the most part, I don't think you want to be too rigid. So you want to be a little bit careful about being too OCD as you prepare your calendar blocking. And it does lend itself to that side of our personalities. The two that I think are most prominent or that have the most promise for you and for I are one that I call theme blocking and the other one dynamic time blocking. Now, theme blocking is my good friend Mike Vardy. He calls it time chunking, and I've got a link to an article to a blog post where he talks about this. So what Mike does with time chunking or theme blocking is you take days and you determine what's going to happen on that day. So he has an administrative day, he has a writing day, he has family day that he doesn't do any work, and he has production days where he does all of his recording. This really works for that type of a content creator in some ways, because you can batch process similar types of content or similar types of work into the days that you choose. And it doesn't have to be in a rhythm of, every Monday is this, every Tuesday is this. It can be far more organic than that. But if you are doing the themes, the benefits are things like if you have to get into makeup and set up a camera and set up lighting, well, it's a good idea to do multiple videos at the same time. And if you're going to be recording podcasts, it's a great idea to have everybody lined up so that you have all your gear set up so you record back-to-back-to-back podcasts. So you reduce the amount of you basically leverage the amount of time it takes you to set up, because it probably takes you 45 minutes to get everything set up, to get your mic set up, to make sure that everything is properly plumbed in and working. So rather than doing that each time, you do it once and then you record multiples. Now you have to be careful that your energy, it gets sustained through it. If you are a person that's used to recording one podcast or one video and then taking a couple of days to do all the processing on it and then doing another one, you might find that sitting in front of the microphone or sitting in front of the camera for 5 hours recording 5 features instead of a single one, might be a little bit hard on you, and you might not be able to do your best work. So you're going to have to do a little bit of personal exploring to figure out if it works for you. But I like the idea of time chunking for many content creators. And then there is dynamic time blocking, where you have some locked blocks for things like working out, but your other blocks are kind of movable. And with dynamic time blocking, either on a weekly basis or on a daily basis, taking stock at the end of the day, as I showed you in the example I said, where you take stock at the end of the day and you plan out your day and you have all your blocks in place for tomorrow. Now, you might have already laid them out. You might have done a week or a month in advance, but you revisit it. You look at it with the knowledge of really what's happening dynamically in that particular week or that time, and then you make any modifications. So before you leave your desk at night, before you wrap things up, you know what your expectations are for tomorrow. Now, tomorrow might bring surprises, but you have determined physically by sitting down and looking at your schedule, adjusting things, you know exactly what you're planning on doing tomorrow. So you're mentally prepared for that. Now, I don't think that will add more stress. Some people might think, oh, well, that might means that I'm going to be worrying about tomorrow. No, it means you're confident in what's going to happen tomorrow. And you might be mentally playing a few games and running over your opening lines of a podcast or something like that. But that's good preparation as opposed to being surprised at the moment and kind of figuring out things as you go, which generates stress and gives us sloppy work. I think that dynamic time blocking is an exceptional way to go. And you can also just blend the two. Once you understand the processes, you can blend theme blocking with dynamic time blocking. Both of these systems work really well for the whole sprints and rest philosophy of kind of the swarm project management concept, if you're into that space. But those two types of time or calendar blocking, I think, are the ones that are going to resonate most with most of us. Now, as I went through this, I recognized there's a couple of goals. There's one obvious goal is to reduce the amount of time we spend in email. But the other one is I recognize that when we have these larger chunks of time, that at least as far as I'm concerned, what I look for and the big benefit I see in spending more time is it gives me an opportunity to get into the zone or get into the flow state. And I think one of the overarching goals of time blocking is that you want to get into the flow. And I love this quote. I've got his name here. It's Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. I think that's how it's pronounced. At any rate, he is this positive psychologist. His work is really fascinating to read, but I absolutely love this quote. The ego falls away. This is what the flow is. The ego falls away. Time flies. Every action, movement, and thought follows inevitably from the previous one, like playing jazz. Your whole being is involved and you're using your skills to the utmost. That is, when you think about when you do enter that phase, when you do get into the flow state, you recognize that you do your best work because it's all focused on the task at hand. And we get more done and we get better work done. And so if we can get into that state daily, can you get into it daily now? I know that I don't get into it every day. But I believe by committing myself more to time blocking that I can get into it more regularly. And I also believe that as you enter the state more frequently, it becomes easier to get into that concentrated and focused state. So I've got another document here to share with you, which I really liked. This is one which is here in the list. It's being shared in the note, and it is how to reach the flow state using 10 flow state triggers. So this is a little bit of a sidebar right now. It's not completely pertinent to time blocking, but these are 10 things that they recommend you do in order to get into the flow state, which they also call the happy state, because it is. You feel good as you're in that state. And if we just quickly go through them, we'll see that they really fit nicely with time blocking. Eliminate all external distractions. Eliminate internal distractions. In other words, quiet your mind and focus on task at hand. Work at your biological peak time. That's picking the hardest work to do when you have the most energy. Listen to the right kind of music. We'll be talking in the tools. You know I'm a big fan of wearing headsets and using music like Focus at Will to help focus on the task at hand, which is not distracting, but music that enhances your concentration. The next tip that they say is work on one very specific task. That's exactly what we're talking about with time blocking. The task must be challenging enough, but not too challenging. So that's an interesting conversation, which we haven't taken on, but some things maybe are too challenging to take on in a full hour. So maybe you have to take them on in smaller bites. Have a clear outcome or goal. We have that with time blocking. Strategically consume caffeine. I don't know whether this is based on science or based on opinion, but I, for one, can concur with that. Stay hydrated and create a mental cue. So that's forming habits so that as you sit down at your desk and maybe putting on the headphones creates the focus. Over time, the muscle memory comes as a result of adding those levels of focus. But the result of getting into the flow state more often and having properly defined goals that they've just outlined there on your calendar means that if you're using calendar blocking properly, first of all, you're working on your agenda, not somebody else's agenda. You're aiming for better, more productive work days. You're aiming to get more done. The goal, the net result will be reduced stress, increased high quality output, and a high degree of happiness and satisfaction, which we should not ignore. We typically think of doing calendar blocking and doing these productivity projects in order to get more done, to make more money, to be more productive. But if it's done right, there is a big mental health benefit to it as well, which we should not ignore. And in fact, for some of us, it might be the overarching goal of doing something like this. And also, this is a system that you can stick to. The calendar blocking is not hard. It's not that big a departure from the way we do things already. It's something that we can quickly get our head around. It's not a super advanced technique. It's something that we can actually do. This is an attainable goal. So what about the tools and tech? I'm not going to go too deeply into them right now, but you recognize that you can and probably should be using multiple calendars. Now, I don't care what calendar tool you use. I use Google Calendar, but if you use an Outlook calendar or any other calendar tool, they are all going to work great for this. But recognize that you should probably have multiple calendars that you color code in order for different tasks as you assemble things, because at times you're going to be able to want to turn on and off different calendars within your overarching calendar to see, personal stuff versus business stuff, and just to help define things. As well, there are certain things that you want to share with others so that as far as your calendar management goes, so incorporating multiple calendars is a great idea. Integrating them with your task and project tool, also something that we should be doing. That can be as simple as just using Google Calendar and Google Tasks. They work really nicely together. Or if you want a more advanced task and project management tool, we use Asana here. Todoist is a great choice. ClickUp is getting a lot more attention from people, and I think it's a terrific tool. So all of those different tools you should be able to integrate very easily. So we've got plenty of other content on that on the channel, so you can take a look for that. But all of those pieces, they're all pieces that we're already using that just kind of dovetail together. What is unique that you probably haven't spent much time on is some of the Focus Assist apps. So we showed you 2 weeks ago when we were talking about creating a time audit, Rescue Time, which does the auditing of our time. It also has the ability to be able to block out external distractions. And there are several other tools as well, which we will share in the shared note, in the shared document here, that you can use, that you can plug into your browser, that do things like block Facebook and block your email from pinging so that you can stay more focused on the task at hand. You can also use minimalist applications like very simple word processors that don't have anything extra, that just are very basic, so you don't end up time playing with formatting and things, and you just concentrate on the writing. So there are focus assisting apps and features within apps that you should pay attention to. Not to mention the music apps, the ones that I like to wear with my headset, which we've covered a lot on the channel. I like to use Focus at Will. Brain FM is another one that I like to use a lot. So putting on a headset and adding the music to the blocking out distractions and enhancing focus is a great fit for this. I think we should put a button on this now and wrap things up. So my key takeaways from this are, first of all, everything needs to be on your calendar. Everything needs to be on your calendar, not just your appointments, but you really have to commit to putting more on your calendar so you can see what your obligations are in the day. The second, and this is something that surprised me, but how important this is set yourself up for success tomorrow by how you end today. This idea of doing a review and planning out your day tomorrow before you leave today, this is far more important than I would have thought when I started doing the research on doing effective calendar and time blocking. It's not something that was my habit in the past, but it is a great habit to get into. Trust me on this. This is a key for success. Review and revisit the schedule on an ongoing basis. That's just what we're talking about. And don't try and fill up every space. Don't try and fill up every space on your calendar. It's good to have open times. It's good to have open times where you fill things in, and don't get so locked in that you can't change things even at the last minute if you need to. Do not become anal about this. So finish your day strong, and each day as you go through your calendar, as you go through the process of the day, go for the flow. Try and get into the flow state as much as possible. And that's what I strive for now, is I strive to be focused on one topic and see if I can get into the flow state. And I sure like it when I do it. I feel a real rush of the glow of success when I know I've focused on a task and done my best work possible. Now, this brings to a conclusion our second in this series of videos on becoming hyperproductive in 2021. First was doing a time audit. Now we're talking about time blocking. Next week, we're going to explore the Pomodoro, which is a technique of maximizing your time and getting into that flow state, where we've looked now at kind of architecting our day. Now we're going to look at how we maximize those time blocks. We've looked at the overall day now, and we're focusing on the time blocks themselves. Now, in our shared note that we're going to be sending out to you later, I have some additional resources that I'm sure you're going to love. Great video from a good friend of mine, Amy Landino, who does a great job of doing time blocking, and she teaches how she does it as well. We've got a couple of tutorials on doing time blocking, which we will share with you, and a variety of other resources for you to consider, of some of the tangential aspect as well. How time blocking works in the swarm methodology, where you have sprints and starts. And finally, how big a cycle should you have? How long a block is optimum? Well, there's something called ultradian rhythms, which is how long we can actually focus on one topic without burning ourselves out. And apparently the upper limit is 90 minutes. So when we're looking at setting this all up, we want to do 90 minutes or less per block. Although you might be able to break those rules. I know that beyond 90 minutes, my brain turns into tapioca. So I think they're pretty accurate on that. So that is my overview on taking on time blocking. Is it something that you're going to want to do? I bet a lot more of you are interested in it now. Let's get into the Q&A. All right. There we go. How are you doing, April?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
We finally got it happening.
I know. It was like magic. It just appeared.
That was an adventure, but what a chat. That might be a record for chat.
Yeah, I loved it.
So the people that were asking, there was a couple of questions that got asked a lot. The replay will be available on YouTube or on Facebook on your page there on the Dottotech page for a week after we've gone live. As far as the note, as far as that shared note that I create, we send that out to you in the replay email because there's just so many links in it. So it's all been composed. It's ready to go. If you've not registered for this, if you just found us through your social network feed, as opposed to registering through email for this webinar, you need to register. April will drop the link, and that will allow us to be able to send you the email with the replay. There was one person that was asking about a ClickUp consultant. I hope that we got it through. We do have one. We have one who I think the world of. Happy to introduce you to her. Just drop us a note at info@dottotech.com and we will broker the introduction.
There's also another question I think Mike Barty can help with. Boutique law firm. This was from Molly. Help setting up project management and time blocking. Is that something Mike Barty can do?
I think he used to do consulting. I'm not sure if he's doing much anymore, but he could certainly point you in the right direction. So we'll put you in touch there as well. So yeah, I leaned on a lot of Mike's stuff for this, and I see a lot of Mike's followers are in here talking about his time crafting.
People are they're saying they love your Evernotes. Wait till you see this week's.
Oh, something. I guess when we started doing the live stream is when I started to use the note, and I'm starting to spend more and more time on that darn note. But you know what it's like? It's kind of funny doing a live, preparing to do the tutorial video that we do each week. I always had it kind of outlined point form, but it was sloppy and all over the map. But formatting it the way I have and kind of giving it a narrative, it's very much like blocking a live, writing a TV show or just putting together a script, which includes blocking. If you think about if you're doing a normal drama or a comedy where you've got different kind of beats within it, where the energy, and by adding the little graphic pieces that I do to it and stuff like that, I know where I'm going as I'm writing it. And it just gives me a kind of a three-dimensional view of what the video is going to be like. So I'm pleased with it. I'm glad that people like it because I put a lot of effort into it. So thank you for that.
We hear about it for like days prior about the note for this week's webinar.
Yeah, I said, you guys got to see my note. It's so much fun.
It does.
So I'm enjoying doing it. Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate that. As long as Evernote's been we haven't started our new Evernote course because I'm using it so much for this, and it's still flaky. The new version is awesome, but flaky, and I need them to get stable before I'm willing to spend too much more energy in this space. I mean, I'm using it, but as far as teaching it with others, we've got some work to do. So let me just do a little bit of business, and then let's get into your Q&A. So the business is I need to thank all of our patrons, the people who support us here on a weekly basis as well on Dottotech, because we would not be here without you. And we've been taking a good hard look at what we've been doing with our patrons over the last little while. And if anything, we appreciate you even more with just having the fact that we've been paying close attention. For those of you who are new to us, Dottotech is a community-funded channel. We do these tutorials for free each and every week, but our patrons, our community, supports us financially. And for that support, they get some perks. And the perks are they get a discount for some of the courses that we deliver, and most importantly, they get all of the Webinar Wednesday replays. We make these available for 1 week, but after that, they're archived. And there are 160. This will be our number 160 of these tutorials that we've done, which are all hosted, which our patrons have access to. So thank you so much. We appreciate you. We also
you have Saturday. Tell them about your little Saturday with Steve videos.
Well,
those are
fun. Patrons know that we started an extra little outreach where I do a little video talking about a digest of everything that we've covered during the week, because we do so many different things here at Dottotech. So we started a new Saturday morning coffee with Steve. It's not a live stream. It's a little video that I produce, but it seems to be appreciated by the patrons, and I appreciate the fact that they appreciate that. So we will continue to do that. We also want to do a quick shout out and thanks to our partners, our technology partners here in the Webinar Wednesday is sponsored by Restream. Restream is our streaming technology partner which allows us to create this stream and stream into multiple platforms at the same time. We use something called the Restream Studio, which makes it really easy for us to compose these streams. And so if you are thinking of getting into the world of live streaming, you want to use the best tech, and I think that Restream Studio is right up there as the best tech. It's certainly done a great job for us. So my thanks to our friends at Restream. And one of our new friends that's just joined, actually an old friend from Thinkific has joined Restream, is Patty McGill, who was on with us was on talking to our Graywave community this week as we were talking about affiliate marketing. But more on that. Well, we don't
great accent.
We'll talk about that perhaps at some other time. We'll get Patty on sometime. I'm sure he's watching right now, monitoring. All right, so Q&A. How much time do we have? We don't have much time. So let's jump into it, April. By the way, I think that the answers that have been given by the community members have been spectacular, better than I could. Zoe and others that I've seen comments, but I'm kind of pissed at Zoe a little bit, if the truth be known, because everything that I was going to talk about, she talked about before I talked about it. All of my best points, she completely stole. It's like you go to a movie with somebody who's seen the movie before, and they tell you the joke before the joke happens. That's what Zoe was doing to me. So Zoe, all right.
Do you know what the name is? Francesco's his YouTube channel. What's the name of his?
It's called. Oh, just a minute.
Oh gosh.
Keep productive.
Yeah. So my friends that are talking about Notion, I'm going to share Francesco's website,
Yeah,
YouTube channel. He does a great job of Notion,
yeah.
information on
Oh,
Notion for you guys.
he is the man for Notion.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, I'm sorry that I actually didn't capture the name on this one, but I have many Zoom calls different times each day. Curious to time block around this.
The problem is not time blocking. The problem is expectations and the way that whatever is happening with your either your business or your company, with how Zoom calls are being scheduled. And that's one of the things that we all face, is we all face other people's demands on our time. So either you have a conversation with your team about structuring it so that you don't have as many Zoom calls that are all over the map that pull you off task, or you determine with your clients a time that works for you so that you can compartmentalize, so that you create the opportunity for time blocking. And this isn't an easy solution. It's, you know, I don't want to be glib about this, but it's one of the things that has increased, I think, during the pandemic, is so many people have lost a little bit of respect for our time because they don't think of it as a Zoom call as the same as a meeting where you had to travel and you had to go in and you had to book a meeting room and all those sorts of things. So they're booking them with a little bit more of a cavalier attitude. And if others within your enterprise are treating your time that way, that's a hard conversation you need to have with them. So that's what I suspect is the biggest issue. And unless you can get control of when they are, and you're going to always be marching to somebody else's agenda. And that's a challenging thing.
Okay. Sorry, I was dropping Francesco. Karen's asking, do you write your plans right in the calendar of another utility?
Sometimes, well, so you know, I didn't want to get too much into the nuance because everybody's combination of tools is different. I saw somebody commenting, I don't use Todoist, and I saw that they were complaining or mentioning that there's some limitations. For example, putting an appointment into the calendar in Todoist will only put a start time into their main calendar, but won't put an end time. They can't put a time frame. So there are some limitations to each piece of technology as you do it. Yes, I put in. We have our Asana calendar for things like Webinar Wednesday. We put in the event, and I put a time in, and it translates then across into my calendar. So I'll use the Asana calendar to populate to basically my main calendar subscribes to it. But this is a trial and error thing. There's no best practices here. You have to kind of figure out which works best for you. There's going to be some real benefits to staying within a single small ecosystem. So if you're in the Apple world, just using Apple Calendar and the Apple Tasks tool in order so that they integrate really nicely. If you're in Google, I saw a comment using Google Tasks and Google Calendar. They work very well together. As soon as you start stretching out and starting to use other tools like Asana or ClickUp or Todoist, there's going to be some integration issues that are going to be unique with each of the combinations. But it's worth working your way through. Figure out a process, and don't be frustrated if it doesn't work right away. Give it a try. If it doesn't work, figure out how to make it work. This isn't, you're setting the stage for a system that you're going to use probably for years to come. So working your way through a few of the hiccups to come up with a system that works for you is well worth the effort. And recognize that this is an investment in your future. You know, figuring out these little linkages. You want to work the way that you are comfortable working, that works for you. You want the technology to serve you. You don't want to be at the service of the technology. So that's my soapbox speech.
That was a good one. That was a good one. How do you calendar block when you are subject to others' Zoom schedules?
That was the question that you just asked. So it was Bob Bernard that was asking that. So we already went through that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What if the time block got run over or you're over the provision time? That's a great question.
It's that is where I mentioned don't be OCD. You know, some things you might want to block off, like that are endless tasks like email. You might want to say, no, I'm going to stop then and just stop then, because you know that there's always going to be more work there. You're never going to be 100% caught up. So you can just, for those sorts of tasks, you can just say stop. For the most part, and many people have commented that you want a transition time. You want a little bit of a fudge factor between them. Or there's nothing wrong with if as you're writing, like today I was working on a script, and I realized that I spent an hour on it and I still had lots of energy on it. And so what I did is I took the next time block of something that I had planned to do. It wasn't time sensitive. It was kind of ongoing work, and I moved it to tomorrow. I just grabbed the time block, moved it across to tomorrow, and extended the time. You can be flexible. The bottom line is you want to get more done, and you want to get the work done, and you want to do the best work possible. So not being rigid, not being OCD about those things I think is something that you kind of have to get your head around. We love the symmetry of everything lining up and it all looking perfectly. We like that. We like having it all in a tidy bundle. There is a real benefit to that, but we aren't in service of that. We're in service of getting our tasks done, of getting our work done, of doing better work.
All right. Let's see. Have you tried using a timer to remind yourself that it's time to stop or switch activities?
Next week, we are diving deep into that pool, Deb. It is the Pomodoro is the kind of the most famous of these techniques where you time yourself in 25-minute Pomodoros in little blocks, and then you have breaks, like a 5-minute break and then another 25-minute block, and you do a series. And it's all been scientifically tested for people's productivity, and it's quite rigid in its main philosophy. But yes, timers I use all the time. Now, I use a timer in my audio app. So I either have it playing on the computer or in my headphones, and I set the time for the task that I want which has a little ding at the beginning and a little ding at the end of the music ends for the task. And then I make a decision after that what's going to happen next. So I always use a timer when I'm in deep work. And those techniques, those Pomodoros, or that concept we're going to be exploring it really in detail next week. So join us then.
All right. Dan's asking, what about travel time? Do you consider that a different task or part of the task that's precipitated it?
Dan, I think you're a patron. Check out the I think it was Webinar Wednesday 77 or something like that. It was the one that we did with Phyllis Kerr. She talks about leading a calendar-based life, and she always talks about how important it is to put those things in, to put in time for personal time, to for how much time it's going to take you to travel or to go shopping or even preparing dinner for the family, blocking out the time. It doesn't always have to be exact with what you do, but you want the intent of it to be on the calendar so you know that it's coming up, and it's part of the closing open loops, reducing stress. If it's on the calendar, you aren't worried about it. So, and you can look at it and you can always do reality checks. If you put in a 20 minutes to travel somewhere and you're going, wait a minute, that's way on the other side of town, or you see that the appointments of that, you realize that you're going to have to shift something to make it all work. So yes, a lot of people make sure they put all of those things on the calendar.
Karen's asking, where do you record your plans for the next day? In the calendar itself or another utility?
Yeah, everything's on the calendar. Everything's on a calendar. I don't use another utility. When I look at my day, I look at the calendar and I look at the week at a glance. Lately I've been using Google has a 4-day view, which kind of gives you a little bit of a tighter snapshot. But yeah, I do it right on the calendar and I adjust things. I don't think that any time that I do, when I do a review, that the calendar for tomorrow stays the way it was. It always shifts a bit.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I have too many streams open. I see you still talking on YouTube, but I'm on Restream. Sorry. Danielle's asking, I struggle between doing calendar blocking on a physical calendar. Can you comment on the pros and cons? And I'm interested to hear your reply on this.
Well, I don't have a physical calendar, so I don't know what it's like. I mean, I love the idea, and I've seen I love Michael Hyatt's his planner, his focus planner. I think that people that like paper planners, it's terrific for, but I don't know about the flexibility of blocking and moving time around on it with the erasing and that sort of thing. So that to me is a limitation that the digital calendar doesn't have. So if you work in pencil, you can erase things. And maybe you're the sort that things don't change much. So then again, it works well as well. But I believe that, it's just more flexible having it on a digital calendar. I appreciate the appeal of the physical calendar, though. And I would never want to diminish that. I know how important that is to so many people.
Well, and it's interesting because I have a planner and I use my online calendar. I have to be better about time blocking, but I use my online calendar because that's like, if it's in there, it's like in everything. But the planner for me is like an accountability thing. So I use both.
Yeah, there you go.
If you do calendar blocking, should you still have task management?
App?
Oh,
yeah, that's something that Mike Vardy talks a lot about, and he is a big fan of you still using a task app, and we still use Asana here because there are things that it does as far as subtasks and other things. I could say write a script, or publish a video on a task, but there's all these subtasks that happen. Those all live within the task management app. So yeah, you still should be doing that.
All right. Is there a way to sync tasks from Gmail with tasks into Google Calendar? Asked Mary.
Way to sync tasks from Gmail and Google. Yeah, they'll all sync quite nicely. Gmail, you can actually just click on the hamburger menu, I think, and it allows you to turn the email into an event, which then is going to put that email, the content of that email, in your calendar as an appointment of some sort. So it's very, very nicely integrated. In Google Tasks, again, all you have to do is you have to turn on your task. When you're using Google Calendar, you've got options of turning on your main calendar, but also turning on your tasks. And you can do and reminders, and you can do that, and that will reflect back with the task tool. Now, I find Google Tasks, again, it only has a start time. It doesn't have an end time on tasks, I believe. I think that's a limitation of a lot of them. All
right, we're on our last two questions because we're at the top of the hour.
At the timing.
Yeah, it went by fast. So our friend Molly's asking, I have a boutique law firm. Oh, we actually already did this. We talked about a consultant. So it's our friend Bob. As an old guy with a bad back, I need to stand every 45 minutes. Should I schedule the stand time to stay in the flow?
Yeah, I guess so. Apple, the watch reminds you to stand as well.
It does. Breathe.
I think that for your own good, the reminder of that is healthy to do. I know that sometimes and I will end up getting deep in and doing 2 hours of work on something. If I haven't reminded myself to stand up, when I stand up, I feel it as well. And I go, oh man, I feel that. I feel every one of those years. I think if you are, I believe, and we'll talk a little more next week because we're going to be talking a lot more about the concept of the time block, the Pomodoro aspect, or really attaining the flow. I think the more that you do it, the easier it is to get back into focus. I wouldn't worry about losing your focus at that point there. I'd be more worried about keeping your back healthy, because at the end of the day, if your back goes out, you're not getting any work done.
That's true.
So it's an insurance policy against it. So yeah, stand every 45 minutes, and maybe even more frequently than that. Maybe the classic Pomodoro, Bob, is perfect for you. 25 minutes and 5. 25 minutes, 5 minutes stand up and walk around. 25 minutes, 5 minutes stand up and walk around. That's a pretty good rhythm, and it's proven to be super, super effective. So give that one a good thought.
Awesome. That is a wrap, my friend.
We are. Let me just promote next week. Next week, so everybody knows, I got all these wonderful graphics that I did. Where is it there? It's gone. There it is. Next week, mastering the Pomodoro and other focus techniques. Pomodoro is kind of the poster child, but now we've looked over. 2 weeks ago, we looked at doing a time audit, so we know where we spend our time. This week, we talked about the most effective technique for planning our time. Next week, we're going to be talking about working in those chunks, how to maximize our productivity in those chunks. And then the following week, we're going to talk about the Kanban, how we translate that into kind of project and task management in an effective way to incorporate our kind of task management into all of the things that we're talking about, and project management into all of the things that we're talking about. It's part of the what do you call it? A 4-part series? It's not a trilogy. It's a quadrophony. I don't know what the term is. Somebody tells me. I should know. Anyways, folks, thanks for your patience today as we started out. So many of you stuck around. I appreciate it. All of the input Oh, just the comments. It just I just love the fact that people are supporting each other and validating and giving better ideas and their own personal perspective. It makes these webinars incredibly valuable, far more than just the content that April and I can deliver to you. So thank you all so much. Replay will be sent out to you very, very shortly. We'll check to make sure that the replay is good on YouTube, and if not, we will cobble together something to make sure that we have some video for you to follow up on, or at least to be able to watch the demo again. April, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
See you all next week. Everybody in the polar vortex, stay warm, stay healthy, be careful when you're driving. Just take it slow, take it easy, and we'll see you next time here for more Webinar Wednesday. Till then, have fun storming a castle.